The funeral was silent until the German shepherd began barking at the coffin, refusing to stop. At first everyone thought it was grief, but when the barking turned frantic, something shifted. What the dog was trying to say would uncover a miracle so shocking it left every mourner speechless and trembling. Today they were saying goodbye to Officer Daniel Granger, a decorated hero, a beloved husband, and a partner to one very special German shepherd. At the foot of the casket sat Rex, Daniel's loyal K9 companion. He wore his black vest with the word police stitched boldly across the side. But Rex didn't sit still. He let out a low whine, then a soft bark. At first no one paid attention. They assumed he was just grieving, confused by the crowd in the absence of his partner's voice. Then Rex's behavior changed. He stood on all fours, ears pricked, eyes fixed on the casket. His tail stiffened as a deep growl rumbled from his chest. Suddenly, he began barking sharply, loud, desperate, echoing across the room like a warning. People turned in their seats, confused. The officer beside Rex tried to tug him back gently, but the dog wouldn't budge. Instead, he lunged toward the casket, his paws scraping at the polished wood. Whispered murmurs spread through the chapel. Something was wrong. The widow looked up, startled. Rex had never behaved like this. His bark wasn't just sorrow. It was a signal. The barking didn't stop. People began shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some assumed it was the stress of the moment. Others wondered if Rex was reacting to grief in the only way he knew how. But to those who had worked with Kinses before, veteran officers sitting in the pews, there was something unsettlingly familiar in the way Rex was reacting. It wasn't panic. It wasn't fear. It was alertness, focus, the kind of intensity only a working dog shows when he's on to something. One of Daniel's close colleagues, Officer Bryant, stood up and walked over. "Easy, boy," he said softly, crouching down and placing a hand on Rex's neck. But Rex didn't flinch or growl. Instead, he barked again, sharper this time, directed right at the base of the coffin. Then something shifted. Rex stopped barking and started pacing in circles around the casket, whining, sniffing along the edges. He returned to the same spot, paused, tapping at the wood. That's when Officer Bryant noticed something strange, an almost imperceptible noise coming from inside. A faint, muffled cry. Brian's face palled. He turned to the funeral director. "Open it," he said, URG urgently. Gasps rippled through the mourners. The director hesitated, stammering something about protocol, but Brian's voice grew firm. "Open the casket now." Rex growled, again pressing his nose to the lid. The room fell dead silent as the lid creaked open and nestled beneath Daniel's folded hands, hidden in the folds of his uniform, was a tiny, squirming newborn puppy, alive. No one moved. The air inside the funeral home thickened with disbelief as eyes locked on the tiny creature stirring on Daniel's chest. The puppy was trembling, no more than a few days old, its fur still damp from birth, its nose searching blindly for warmth. Rex let out a soft, low whimper, tail wagging cautiously as he peered into the coffin. His entire posture had shifted from frantic to protective, almost paternal. How did it even get there? Someone whispered. The priest crossed himself. Is this a sign? But Officer Bryant, trying to steady his shaking hands, leaned closer and gently scooped the fragile pup from the casket. As he did, something slipped from under the edge of Daniel's jacket. A folded piece of paper. Curious and shaken, he picked it up, noticing Daniel's handwriting on the outside. It read, "If anything happens to me, please take care of them." Them, Bryant echoed aloud. Another gas filled the room. Rex, still standing guard, gently nuzzled the infant puppy and let out a bark, not one of alarm but of confirmation. He wasn't just reacting to grief. He had been trying to protect the pup all along. Daniel hadn't just trained Rex to obey commands. He had entrusted him with something far deeper. Loyalty beyond death. And Rex had delivered, leading everyone to a miracle no one would have believed if they hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes. Tears began to flow. But now they weren't just for mourning. They were for wonder. As the guests slowly gathered around Officer Bryant unfolded the note with trembling fingers. The room had gone completely silent. No more sniffles, no more whispered prayers. All eyes turned to the worn piece of paper that Daniel had left behind, as if it might explain the mystery none of them could comprehend. The letter began simply, "If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it home." Gas echoed through the room. Even the priest stepped back, stunned by Daniel's foresight. "But if Rex is still with you, and if by some miracle she made it too, then please know this wasn't an accident. I knew she was coming. I kept it a secret because I didn't want anyone to panic or try to stop me. Rex and I, well, we've seen things most can't understand, but we always understood each other." Officer Bryant paused, choking on his words, then continued, "She was born the night I went missing in the cold alone. Rex didn't leave my side, not even when he had the chance to run. He stayed. He guarded. And when I closed my eyes for the last time, I only hoped someone would hear him bark." The crowd broke down. The puzzle had been solved. The barking wasn't grief. It was a final message, a cry for help, a guardian's alarm. Daniel's final mission hadn't been about himself. It had been about protecting a life he'd barely met. And Rex had made sure that life wasn't forgotten. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low beyond the hills, the puppy lay wrapped in a soft blanket. Inside the precinct's canine office, a nurse who had been attending the funeral confirmed it. Despite the cold, dehydration, and hours spent in the coffin, the puppy would survive. "It's a miracle," she whispered, eyes glistening. Rex sat quietly beside the crib, his eyes locked on the tiny bundle. His usual stiffness had melted away, replaced by a calm protectiveness no one had ever seen in him before. Officers passed by, heads shaking in disbelief, some stopping just to sit beside him. This wasn't just a rescue. It felt sacred. Amanda, Daniel's widow, arrived holding the letter tightly in her hand. She crouched beside Rex, tears streaming freely. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew she'd need you." She reached out and gently stroked Rex's head. He leaned into her hand, eyes soft, body still. Amanda looked down at the pup, her voice trembling. "She'll grow up knowing who her father was and the dog who saved her life." Bryant stood nearby, watching the scene unfold. "He never stopped protecting," he said. "Even in death," the department decided unanimously, the puppy would stay with Amanda and Rex. She would grow up not only surrounded by love, but with a living piece of her father watching over her. And Rex, He hadn't just lost his partner. He had found his new purpose. He hadn't barked out of fear. He barked because life still remained. If you like this amazing canine dog story, don't forget to like and subscribe. More awesome stories are coming.